Well, President Biden today hosted CEOs and business leaders at the White House to continue his push for vaccine mandates for businesses with over 100 employees. He announced as part of his plan to try to contain the spread of the Delta variant, but he's getting pushback from several red states and from some workers who say they shouldn't be forced to take the shot to keep their jobs. So how far can the government go on mandates, and what rights do workers actually have? Here's ABC's Deirdre Bolton.
My job as president is to protect all Americans.
President Biden announcing a sweeping new plan to fight COVID-19 last week.
I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated or show a negative test at least once a week.
Enlisting businesses as the battleground on which he hopes to win the war against the virus. This after the FDA fully approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine in late August.
Some of the biggest companies are already requiring this. United Airlines, Disney, Tyson's Food, and even Fox News. The bottom line, we're going to protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated coworkers.
Under that authority, OSHA can implement all sorts of various safety measures in order to protect employees. And in this case, the agency just needs to find that there is a grave danger to employees, which is pretty easy to demonstrate given the severity of the Delta variant.
The move comes as the Delta variant has complicated the return from remote work to the office for many employers across the country.
I think the biggest shift that we have seen in 2021 is businesses planning for a future that was predictable and dependable, in which case they could tell you, hey, you're going to come back to work in September. All the companies who have come out and done that, many of them have had to backpedal.
Some states are pushing back on Biden's plan. Arizona has already filed the first lawsuit against the Biden administration over the new vaccine requirements, but experts say that effort will likely have little impact.
These policies are quite targeted. He's using his particular authority that is within his constitutional authority to do the most that he can without overstepping his authority.
More than half of Americans agree with the need for vaccine mandates. In a recent ABC News Washington Post poll taken before Biden's announcement, 52% of adults support businesses mandating vaccines for employees. But for some of the 24% of American adults who are unvaccinated, the idea of their employer telling them to get the jab is a step too far.
No vaccine mandate! No vaccine mandate!
In New York City, CT imaging technician John Matland has been outspoken against his hospital mandating vaccinations.
I want everybody to hold the line.
This is a different type of situation altogether. A forced mandate for terms of employment on something that is still very new, 18 months of data.
John says he isn't convinced the vaccines have been around long enough to prove their safety.
This could very well be something that develops, makes your genetics develop cancer in 5 to 10 years. We don't know, and it's up to you to take that risk. And again, I don't stop people from taking that risk. It's a risk I personally don't want to take.
While the FDA does warn that, quote, information is not yet available about potential long-term health outcomes of the approved Pfizer vaccine, health experts say there have been no major safety signals to raise concerns.
We know that in the history of vaccines, we have not seen severe or significant effects of a vaccine beyond 6 to 8 weeks of its rollout. And that's in the history of all vaccines. Vaccines really help your body develop an immune response, and that helps to protect you against future assaults against COVID-19.
Hospitals were some of the first workplaces in the country to require COVID-19 vaccinations, and some of the first to face pushback from hesitant employees. In June, 178 employees of Houston Methodist were suspended for failing to comply with their vaccine policy. 153 ended up being terminated, some of them suing the hospital system. That litigation still ongoing. John Matland in New York started a group chat for other healthcare workers like him. It has more than 1,000 members nationwide and counting.
This group has discussed their point of view, the amount of anxiety that we're all dealing with. They don't understand how, after all of this, being on the front lines with the science still developing, they're getting kicked out after 30 years. People are getting thrown away like they don't count.
It is very much within an employer's right as an employer to mandate vaccination or testing as long as there are specific exceptions being made for medical or religious objections.
Only 16% of unvaccinated workers say they would comply with a workplace vaccine requirement. 72% say they'd walk off the job.
Many people see it as some way an option to be forced to be vaccinated, when in reality, it's really just a force to make a decision on whether or not you want to get vaccinated.
But workers like John say they believe the same life-saving PPE that protected employees who showed up to work through the pandemic last year should be enough moving forward.
PPE in relativity to dealing with patients should be good enough to hold up and stop the spread of COVID. Break rooms, everything else, whether you get it in the break room or you get it at the local 7-Eleven, it doesn't matter.
PPE is definitely substantial, but unlike a vaccine, PPE has to come off at some time. People have to understand that the point of a mandate is to have a decision whether or not you want to accept that higher risk.
Shortly after our interview, John was fired from Northwell Health Staten Island University Hospital for an alleged trespassing incident during a protest against vaccine requirements. He denies the allegation and is contesting his termination. The hospital issuing a statement to ABC News reading in part, quote, Matlin was suspended on August 19th in relation to an incident which posed a serious risk to our patients and staff. After a thorough investigation, he was terminated as a result of the findings. The details of Matlin's termination are confidential. However, we can confirm the grounds of his termination had nothing to do with his compliance with the vaccine mandate. SIUH continues to respect people's right to free speech and have their voices heard in a peaceful and civil manner. While the return to the office in this new world will have its challenges, experts say it could provide new opportunities for employees.
We're certainly moving into an environment where employees are going to have the opportunity to have a lot more say about the environments they work in and the way in which they work.
As for John, he says he will continue to fight for what he believes is his freedom of choice and remains adamant that he won't take the vaccine until he feels ready, if that day ever comes.
If it comes down to it, if it's get vaccinated or change careers or look for a new career or find out how to survive, yes, I'm going to take it the whole way. I'm going to give up my job. I'm going to give up my profession. I find great peace in standing up for what you believe in, and I find that if this is the way it's supposed to go for me, I'm going to be just fine.
For ABC News, Deirdre Bolton in New York.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.